Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is, believe it or not, June the 1st, 2019. And we happen to be still reading in our book here, It Will Never Happen to Me. And that's by Claudia. And let's see, I believe we were reading, we left off with the non-drinking alcoholic at home. So that's where we're going to start today. So if everybody's ready, I'm just going to start reading. And everybody that pops in, I hope you enjoy this because it's really a great book. Anyway, here we go. The non-drinking alcoholic at home. Much of what I've said about roles applies also to children of alcoholics, even though the alcoholic may now be sober or is no longer living with the family due to separation, divorce, or in some cases death. Perhaps don't stop because drinking stops. Children by themselves do not recognize the need for change. It is so very typical for people to believe if the drinking stops or if the drinker leaves the family that everything will be back to normal. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I'm reminded of a 19-year-old who told me she continues to lie about insignificant events. She developed this pattern in an effort to bring stability to a very violent alcoholic home. When she told me this, the violence and the alcoholic parent had been out of the home for 3 years due to a divorce. She said she was not aware of her pattern of lying until she was confronted with the behavior. 3 years after the alcoholic parent had left the family, and one reason family members do not change their ways after the alcoholic has left is because they seldom realize they have been adversely affected. A 43-year-old recovering alcoholic told me that even after 6 years of sobriety, he had not once talked to his children about his alcoholism or the effects it had on the family. He explained he now feels close to his children, 2 adult children in their early 20s and a 14-year-old, yet regrets that many things have been left unsaid. He recognizes the negative impact his alcoholism had on the family, but he doesn't know how to approach his children about these problems carried over from the past. It is definitely awkward after any number of years to bring up these sensitive issues. However, in the long run, if these problems are not addressed, they become more and more difficult to solve. This closing of feelings creates a distance and perpetuates a lack of communication among family members. The ability to deny is likely to continue if children are not able to talk about their feelings or refer to past events in their lives. The ability to deny is a given unless the family makes a specific effort to alter old family laws and roles. Family members need not have family secrets. When the family has reunited as a result of a recovery process, its members can become even closer and family life can become even better as long as past and present problems are dealt with in an open and honest manner. Should family members be involved in a recovery process prior to the alcoholic's sobriety? It is important that they continue in the recovery program even after their alcoholic gets sober. It has taken many years to develop a denial system. While family members may have worked through some of their denial by the time the alcoholic seeks help, it is very natural for them to stop their therapy and revert to old ideas. Thinking once the alcoholic doesn't seek treatment that the worst is behind them. Finally, members, as well as the alcoholic, have been perfecting their denial systems for years, and while it may not take equally as many years to undo that system, the recovery process is still a lengthy one. I was working with a 12-year-old boy at the time his father was first getting sober. He had worked rather quickly through the denial system, but after his father left the treatment facility and returned home, Mike came back to group and asked and said, "Everything is just really wonderful." He was smiling and had absolutely no problem in the world. I knew his father and had been a drinking alcoholic all of Mike's life. Mike believed because Dad was now sober, Dad was going to wake up and no longer fantasize Dad was doing to discover his 12-year-old son, a boy he knew very little about. I knew Mike's life just couldn't remain all roses. I was also hearing from Mike's mother that he was having a difficult time in school. One day, I finally confronted Mike. "Mike, things aren't fine, are they?" "Oh yeah, they are just fine," he responded. And I said, "No, Mike, things are not just fine. Things are often not good even though a parent gets sober." Finally, Mike said to me through the form of a picture, "I've had a hard time understanding why my dad goes to those meetings every night and why he's not at home." Mike had a lot of expectations, many of which were fantasies, about he and his father were going to spend so much time together now that his dad was sober. The fact was, in his initial recovery, Mike's dad was so actively involved in AA, he spent less time at home than he had while he was drinking. Mike did not understand. He was confused and very angry, and he immediately reverted to his denial system in order to protect himself from the feelings he was experiencing. It is essential for all family members to be familiar with the Alcoholic Recovery Program. When alcoholics regain sobriety, it is most helpful for them to have the support of other recovering people. A recovery program usually involves meetings, whether they are AA meetings, treatment programs, aftercare meetings, or other supportive groups. Most recovering people need to attend these meetings. Quite frequently, particularly when they first get sober, in Mike's case, his father's probability really did need all those meetings. It is not sufficient for a counselor to explain this need to children and spouses. Mike needed his father to share feelings about the meetings and to share his thoughts about sobriety. If parents find they need time away from families to attend meetings, it is important for them to explain and share with the family how vital and necessary this part of their recovery program is for them. While the immediate and extended family can help children within the home understand alcoholism, not deny and develop balanced coping mechanisms, It is advisable to also have the assistance of outside resources. Whenever help is sought, be aware that involving children often meets with their resistance. Many times, children believe they are handling their lives just fine, and it is the alcoholic who needs help, not them. Often there is even more resistance if the alcoholic has been sober for a period of time or is an absentee parent. Simply telling children you want them to be involved in therapy because they have been affected by the alcoholism in the family is not the most effective approach. Resistance stems from fear, anger, issues of trust, and a sense of betrayal. Tell children it's necessary for them to attend because the drinking has caused a lot of turmoil in the family, and you want them to have the opportunity to address the problems the turmoil has created. Keep your explanation simple and don't enter into an argument over this issue. Explain that while this is a family problem, they deserve special attention. Convey the attitude that they are worthy of this opportunity to learn how to handle problem situations. There's usually more resistance from teenagers than from preteens. But recognize all ages need this direction from you. Be firm. Request them to try therapy, counseling, for a specific number of times. Say 6. After that, together, you will decide if the program should be continued. Do recognize you can't make them participate in therapy for forever, but if you can involve them initially, the resource itself often provides the sanctuary which will help them decide on their own to continue their involvement. Chapter 6, The Adult Child. Chapter 6. Upon reaching adulthood, the majority of children of alcoholics continue to experience problems related to trust, dependency, control, identification, and expression of feelings. Adult children of alcoholics are a special population with special needs. Their belief that it will never happen to me persists from early childhood into adulthood. This chapter speaks to these children as well as to those who work with adult children about addressing such traumatic issues. If you are an adult child, this chapter is meant to help you identify and better understand some of your behavior patterns. It offers suggestions and courses of action which will enable you to initiate positive changes in your life. Adult children of alcoholics have many identities. First and foremost, they are just that, adult children of alcoholics. Second, they may be the spouse or former spouse of an alcoholic. And third, they may be alcoholic themselves. And fourth, they could be any combination of the three. If one is the spouse of an alcoholic, the issues of being the adult child, as well as being married to an alcoholic, can be addressed simultaneously. Should drinking be a problem in the life of an adult child, the drinking itself must be examined and dealt with before other problems can be addressed. Adult children often question their own drinking, and rightly so, because of their higher than average tendency to become alcoholic. Appendix B is a self-examination which may indicate that the adult child seek counseling regarding his or her drinking behavior. If drinking is causing problems for adult children, if they lack the ability to predict behavior when drinking, or lose the ability to control the frequency or quantity of what they drink, these reasons are serious enough for them to seek counsel, and with an appropriate resource, an alcoholism professional, until they achieve ongoing sobriety. It is unlikely that these adult children of alcoholics will be able to address the problems and issues created by their early environment. If adult children find drinking becomes an increasingly greater part of their lives, but truly believe drinking is not a problem, those adults should explore their reasons for increased drinking and be very aware of their tendencies towards alcoholism. When questioning your own drinking behavior, you, the adult child, do not have to know for certain whether or not you really are alcoholic before you reach out for help. The same holds true for other family members. All you need to know is that you're experiencing problems related to drinking. I strongly suggest all children of alcoholics seek out assistance to help effect changes in their lives. If they wish to develop a more satisfying life, Al-Anon is a viable resource which assists people to focus on themselves as well as to understand the issues of co-alcoholism. More recently, a specialized group of Al-Anon has been developed specifically for the adult child. While Al-Anon is a valuable resource, especially for children of alcoholics, professional therapists are also beginning groups for the adult child. There's much value in allowing oneself to be part of a group process. The identification with other adult children will provide immediate validation and support. Should specialized resources not be available, I suggest other helping professionals be sought out, i.e., marriage and family counselors, psychologists, social workers, etc. It might be helpful to offer this book as a reference. Tell them the issues and mentioned herein are the areas you need to address. So many adult children have written or called me after reading or hearing of my work, saying, I've been in therapy for years, and I'm the child of an alcoholic. Until I read your book and heard what you had to say, I never really understood. Some have said they have learned more about themselves by hearing about adult children than they had in 5 or even 10 years of therapy. So it is important not just to seek therapy in general, but also to locate a resource person knowledgeable about the family dynamics of alcoholism. Whether working individually with a therapist or in a group process, it is important for you to make those close to you aware of your decision to seek counseling regarding the problems which have developed. It is important for those in your support system to be aware of your present vulnerability, be it a lover, husband, wife, extended family, or friend, you will not need this support system more than ever to provide a strong backboard. This support should not be derived from young children within the home, but rather from peers. For this reason also, it is helpful to have other adult children of alcoholics with whom to identify and to lend mutual support. In the early part of this book, I discussed at length why adult children have neither been able to trust nor been able to talk. The single greatest problem area I have identified for adult children is their inability to ask others for what they need or for help. As you grow into adulthood, this inability to ask for help becomes an ongoing problem. You must begin to reach out and ask others to be available to you. You need to ask yourself, when have I let another person be there for me? When have I asked another person for help? If only negative experiences are remembered and it seems too difficult to take further risk, I would recommend therapy with a professional counselor. As an exercise, see if you can identify 4 people who are a part of your life who would be available to you if you needed them. List the probable helpers for the little things, i.e., a neighbor to help you when your car won't start in the morning, a friend at work to take you to the airport, a personal friend to water your plants when you need to leave for the weekend. Identify those people who can help you in the areas where you feel most vulnerable, i.e., a specific friend to discuss concerns about problems at work, an intimate friend to share your fears related to making personal changes, a therapist to discuss your angers. The more important the situation is for you, the greater you need to feel safe will be. It is important for you to be willing to ask for help, even if you think you don't need it. Before you, the adult child, are ready to continue in a therapeutic process, recognize 2 basic rights. 1, you have the right to talk about the real issues. And 2, you have the right to feel. You no longer have to pretend things are different from how they are or were. There are legitimate reasons for the way you feel. There are reasons for the craziness and the confusion you experience. By focusing on these issues, you are not blaming anyone for the situation, but simply trying to readjust and live in a way which allows oneness, honesty, and love to be a normal, healthy part of your life. Many adult children think if they are angry that they must scream, or if they are unhappy, they must leave the situation. Adult children have a high tendency to make absolute decisions related to the experience of a particular feeling, such as changing jobs, moving or leaving a spouse. These reactions are not necessary. Acceptance of feelings, i.e., anger or joy, without a harsh judgment and related major decision, combined with the ability to express feelings, will decrease fear and feelings of alienation toward oneself. Feelings seem inappropriate only when they are not understood. Adult children are generally fearful of feelings because they don't understand them. Feelings aren't understood because adult children have not had the guidance to put them into perspective. Years ago, so as small children, they began rolling their feelings up in a bundle like a small piece of the snow rolling down a hill. And these feelings have now become a giant snowball. By the time the snowball reaches the bottom of the hill, by the time the children have grown up, the feelings have simply been stored up, bad feelings upon bad feelings. No wonder adult children are scared. Now, when they do get in touch with all their feelings down to the very core, they are overwhelmed. This is why it is valuable to be involved with others in a therapeutic setting. The therapeutic process can provide the safety and protection adult children need as they become more aware of their feelings. The balance of this chapter will offer insight and lead to greater understanding and resolution of major problem areas for the adult child. Feelings. The following is an example exercise to feelings in general. It is meant to be of assistance to helping the adult child who has difficulty identifying or expressing feelings. Fill in the boxes of the feelings you identify with. Do you ever feel love, fear, warmth, worry, caring, sadness, patience, confused, violent, angry, hurt, embarrassed, jealous, understanding, hatred, ashamed, happy, shy, excited, guilty, sympathy, moody, discouraged, frustration, brave, sensitive, humorous, gloomy, encouraged. Identify verbally, or better yet, list in written form when and where you experience those feelings. If the identification of feelings is difficult, make copies of this page and on a daily or weekly basis, acknowledge to yourself what feelings you have been experiencing. Try to share these with another person. The more specific you can be about your feelings, the more you can understand and accept them, and the more apt you are to be able to do something constructive about them. While positive feelings are the ones people seek, negative feelings can be viewed as clues or signals that can give one information about what is needed. When I feel sad, it may possibly mean I need support. When I am angry, it probably need to clarify my stance. When I am scared, I need to let someone else know that. By viewing the more painful feelings as signals, it is easier to accept them and to utilize them constructively. By identifying feelings, one is less apt to be overwhelmed by emotion and end up depressed, confused, or enraged. With this exercise, you can gain insight and awareness to family patterns. This will assist the adult child in understanding how the expression of feelings is often learned behavior from parental role modeling. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least often expressed, 5 being the most often expressed, rate your parents' frequency of expression. And so then it's listed, and I'm going to show this to you so that you can see that. Now, ignore all that writing in there because that's mine. That just give you an idea. And so anyway, it lists your mother, your father, the feelings, and then your mother and father and the feelings that you have. Now, you can also ask yourself, which feelings did you want expressed more and which ones less? Can you see any repetitive patterns for you in adulthood? Crying. Young children of alcoholics generally have learned not to cry or to cry silently alone, and adult children often continue into the same pattern. 36-year-old adult child Jerry, now a recovering alcoholic, was talking about the issue of crying. He told of how he was the child who never cried. When he was very young, he remembered crying only once, and that was when a pet died. He entered into adolescence and adulthood being taught and surviving. Jerry told his counselor about his complete inability to shed tears over any of his personal misfortunes, which included 9 hospitalizations for alcoholism. Surrender is essential for an alcoholic's recovery. It includes the breaking of the denial system about one's situation in life, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Jerry's surrender began when the tears started to flow the day he was admitted to his 10th alcoholic hospital program. Jerry needed to cry. He needed to quit being tough, alone, and in the denial trap of not talking, not feeling, and not trusting. The tears were the breakthrough. If you are an adult child who can identify with patterns of not crying or crying alone and silently, you must understand the necessity of breaking the pattern before you will be able to affect your own recovery process. This surrender is the first step in recovery, whether or not you are an alcoholic or not. While many adult children follow the formationed pattern, there are those adult children who find themselves crying, yet not understanding the reason for the tears. Some may periodically lose the ability to control their crying. Some find they are crying at inappropriate times, while others find they cry at the appropriate times, but there is an overabundance of tears. Cheryl, 35, says, "I'm so tired of crying. I never cried as a child, and today I cry at least little things, at the least little things. I cry if I get scared. I cry if I feel rejected. I cry if I hear a sad story on the news. I cry when I read a nice warm story in the paper. I don't seem to have any control. It's really embarrassing. But more than that, more than anything, it really scares me." It is important for you, the adult child, to 1, recognize the need to cry. 2, give yourself permission to cry. 3, let another person know about this. And 4, let that other person be available to be supportive of you. You will need to reevaluate the messages you previously received about crying, such as, "It doesn't do any good to cry," "Boys don't cry," "Only sissies cry," "I'll smack you harder if you cry." New messages need to be, "It's okay if I cry. It's important that I allow myself to cry. It's a healthy release. I'll probably feel better." An adult child need to address the issues of crying. Ask yourself, when do you cry? Do you ever cry? Do you only cry when alone? Do you cry hard, or do you cry slowly and silently? Do you cry because people hurt your feelings? Do you cry for no apparent reason? Do others know when you cry? Do others see you cry? Do others hear you cry? Do you let others comfort you when you cry? Do you let others hold you? Do you let them just sit with you? What do you do to prevent yourself from crying? Do you tell yourself you are stupid for letting another person hurt your feelings? Do you get angry with yourself for crying? How is your pattern as an adult different from that of a child? What do you do with your tears as a child? Did you cry? Did others know when you were crying? Did you let others comfort you when you were crying? What did you do then to prevent yourself from crying? Read through these questions again, slowly. Then share what you know about yourself with another person. Pick a person with whom you feel safe, a therapist, an Al-Anon member, a friend, someone with whom you feel you can allow yourself to be vulnerable. Remember, others may have old messages about the stigma of crying too, and might welcome the opportunity to talk about an issue many people never take the time to explore. You may also need to think about the basis of your fear of crying. For the super controlling person, fear of crying usually means a fear of falling apart. It is a fear of losing control, a fear that once crying starts, it will lead to hysterical behavior or that you will be unable to stop. The greater your fear, the greater the need to let others offer support. Recognize the need to establish a situation which is both protective and healthy. Now, recognize when you cry, which you will need to do that. Cry is exactly what you will do. You may cry for 5 minutes, even 10 minutes. While crying may feel very frightening, you do not need to go into hysteria, nor will you. As a therapist, I have seen hundreds of people cry, and they never need to be carted away. With the help of your group and or therapist, you will be able to sort out the reasons for crying. Remember, you have accumulated a great deal of unresolved feelings. Your tears are usually related to sorrow, confusion, loneliness, and loss. Fear. As adults, children of alcoholics often experience an overwhelming sense of fear. Much of the time, that fear is undefinable. These fearful times are often episodic, in that extreme high and low mood swings are experienced. The adult child may also experience periods of extreme fearfulness, contrasted by periods totally devoid of fear. On the other hand, they may find themselves existing in a perpetual state of unidentifiable fear. Many adult children are fearful expressing their needs, fearing a loss of love should they express a want. Dawn, an alcoholic child, said, "I've grown a lot, but I still feel gut-level fear when I express my wants and needs to my husband. It's difficult to be spontaneously open and self-disclosing. I'm afraid he won't love me." As these children of alcoholics become adults, many of them continue to express fear of confrontation. For so many adult children, confrontation is simple disagreement or questioning, but the fear is nonetheless intense and based on what they perceive to be a real confrontation. These fears may stem from years of harassment by a parent, which always resulted in the child feeling guilty or humiliated. These fears persist also because there was never any normal disagreement in their alcoholic homes. Any expressed disagreement resulted in yelling and loud arguing because the adult could not tolerate anyone disagreeing with him or her. Disagreement was perceived by the alcoholic as betrayal and resulted in actions which belittled and condemned the child. Adult children who experienced a lot of fear of the unknown as a child, never knowing what to expect next, would continue to experience uncertainty and fear of the unknown as an adult. The fear of the unknown can keep one immobilized and being stuck in fear itself immobilizes one emotionally. It will result in a tendency for people to discover their own perceptions and not have the courage to check out other people's perceptions. The results are isolation, depression, and low self-esteem. Take the time to read and respond to the following questions. What did you fear as a child? Did you fear you were going to be left alone? Were you afraid you were going to get hit? Were you afraid your mom or your dad did not love you? What did you do when you feel you were fearful as a child? Did you go to your room and cry? Did you get angry instead? Did you hide in a closet? Did you ask a brother or sister to come and be with you? Did others know that you were afraid? Do you think your mom knew? Do you think your sister or your grandparents possibly knew? How did you express this fear? Did you wet the bed? Did you mask your fear with anger? How is that pattern similar in your adulthood? Do you still go off by yourself when afraid? Do you still get angry instead? Are you sharing your fears with someone? Or are you still pretending you're not afraid? Ask those questions of another adult and share your answers with another. Share with someone you can trust. And the next one that we will discuss is anger. And we're going to stop here because that's quite long and I don't think I can get it done quick enough. So I hope everybody's enjoying the book that I'm reading. I hope everybody will come back and check it out again and again and again, especially if it's helpful. And of course, myself personally, I believe it can be. very, very helpful to anybody that listens to this and moves on with their life in respect to what I'm reading. It's a very, very necessary thing. And there are so many out there that I'm sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, need the help and could use the help. And that's one of the reasons that I'm reading and doing what I'm doing, because being in AA, being an alcoholic, and being sober for quite a few years, I know in my heart that it may seem like a waste of time sometimes to do what I'm doing. And yet I also know that if someone were to stumble upon this and listen to it, and it made a difference in their life, then I would have accomplished my goal. Because I'm one who believes it really does only take one to change the world. That's all, just one. So take heed. I hope you listen to it. And I'll see you, let's see now, that'll be on Tuesday, and we'll start the next segment. I think it's on fear. So everybody have a fantastic day, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.